Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Stoshi Sean. Glad you're here. Glad to be hanging out with you. First time here, please hit the subscribe button and the bell for notification. Try to get as much content as possible. Today we have a interview with a couple people and want to find out some more on something pretty interesting that I was tagged in by one of the members of the community, Warrior, about what actually friends with Amina, um, which she was just in this video of this crazy thing that he tagged me in, and it was about what they're doing as far as holding people that aren't normally held accountable for their actions, holding them accountable for their actions under the law. Uh, I know you guys are always telling me that we can fix the system with the system, and I don't think we can anymore. I think it's gone too far. We got to tear it down and rebuild it. But that is what they're working for. It's what they're doing is I thought it was amazingly interesting because just for the fact that it's empowering people to hold these other elite people accountable, um, kind of was mind blowing. And then I saw Amina's face. I was like, was that? I mean, so I wanted to find more out. Also got Greg from Rivet, my buddy, who is a former attorney, super smart guy. You can always check us out on World Blockchain Roundtable on Thursdays over on Dragon Chain at 11 Eastern. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Sean.
I mean, if you want to, if you and Norma can just kind of introduce yourself, and you guys are part of Justice for Canada, which you were part of first, and then you joined. It's a long one. Hold on. Natural and Common Law Tribunal for Public Health and Justice, with Pascal Najadi, which is he's like the head. And is he in
He's a former international Swiss banker.
Swiss banker, yeah. Which that sounds like you're saying he's quite evil.
No,
he seems to be like wearing a white hat nowadays.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know a little bit about yourself and what Justice for Canada is first.
Sure. Sean and I, we know each other from the crypto Twitter space and Litecoin family and all kinds of wonderful things that, for over the years. And you recognize me in the video you just mentioned. So I'm from Canada, and during, I guess through COVID, the very beginning stages, I saw Norman Traversy online, and I wanted to go find out who this man was because he was talking about justice in Canada and just hearing him speak truthfully, and I was very drawn to him, and I found out he was from my hometown, Ottawa, and in Canada. So I went down to downtown Parliament buildings and I saw him, and we did a on the fly interview right there, and he spoke about what he was doing, and that went viral. And next thing you know, Norman and I had been doing many videos in helping just bring awareness to his private prosecution against Justin Trudeau. And in that, having done that, we did a march July 20th on Canada Day, which is July 1st, and we attracted thousands of people from across Canada, and we started the first movement of that year in 2020 in Canada. And from there, things progressed in all kinds of, protests, leading it right up to the truckers protest in Ottawa last year. And it's just ongoing. Of course, it's worldwide now. And in that, we had troubles, of course, doing a private prosecution. It's our system in Canada, our justice system it's a very closed system, meaning and I'll have Norman explain this part. It's very hard to do anything, but you can't prosecute the Prime Minister. But what we did achieve is we started the first movement in Canada, which is very essential.
That's awesome.
Norman has a great connection with people, great connection. They love him. And just to jump ahead a little bit with Pascal Najadi, in the Swiss courts, it is different. And I'll have Norman explain that to you as well. It works a little bit differently than our court system. So he's made it up into the Supreme Court level. he's made some progress. And you mentioned that you don't think it is fantastic, and it's way further ahead than what we could achieve. So,
I am.
and
I gotta
again,
admit,
I'll have
I'm a
Norman
fan of
explain
what
to
you guys are
his
doing.
journey in that, and it's something to hear. So with
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And so Pascal is, he was jabbed, and his family got jabbed, and he found out about the Pfizer releasing their information again about the vaccines not being effective, and it really upset him, and he felt that his health minister had betrayed his people. So he's taken it upon himself to do a private prosecution as well, against his, leader of his country. And again, like I said, it's made more headway than ours. And yeah, so Norman, do you want to explain a little bit about your case and how it's caused doors to shut for us?
Certainly. I'm an ex-firefighter.
Norman, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm on?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm an ex-firefighter.
go ahead. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Amina. I'm an ex-firefighter, and I got severely injured, and I got screwed over by the system, basically. And I decided, rather than try and deal with this crap, I was going to go after the head of the snake. So I drew up, I've got no legal training at all. I drew up a private prosecution, which in Commonwealth countries, you are expected to do if you know about someone breaking the law and the police aren't dealing with it. Mm-hmm. And it was my right. And I went to court, and they basically locked me out of the courtroom and had the hearing behind a locked door, and then stayed it for lack of evidence while I was standing outside the locked door with all the evidence. And that was in 2019. Then I didn't know anybody, really. I had like 2 or 3 people that were working with me. And I decided I'm going after this bugger, Trudeau. And I had some legal people, paralegals, that we put together a 192-page document outlining all the crimes of Justin Trudeau and the corruption. And at that point, it wasn't treason. It was just SNC-Lavalin and these other things. And in June of 2020, this beautiful woman came up to me and said, "Are you Norman Traversy?" And I said, "Yes." And we did an interview, and it went viral. So then we started working.
Talking about me.
No, it was a different one. It was a different one, Amina. Anyways, it went viral. It turns out we worked really well together as a team. And then I gave a speech on July 1st, 2020. And there were thousands of people there. And I had the document, and I waved it in the air. And standing behind me was this big guy, Pat King. You may know that name, Pat King. Mm. And we went to the embassy, delivered the documents, got a receipt from the White House, and I got a letter from Donald Trump thanking me. So we were on to something. And Amina and I started making more videos. The movement grew. I kept in touch with Pat King. And then we had the convoy. Now, Pat organized the convoy out in BC. He led the convoy to Ottawa. And I and a couple of other people were the reception committee. So I actually booked a hotel, an entire hotel for the organizers. So we ran it out of this boutique hotel, not a very big hotel, in downtown Ottawa. And the rest is history. You saw what happened. So
yeah, No, we
Yeah.
saw what happened. It was well, the worst part about it for me was sitting here down in the States. I started catching on to what was going on north of our border earlier than I think a lot of people did here, because I mean, uh, just one of those people who gets a real visceral impact from kind of the stuff that they were doing all over the world, right? And it wasn't. I mean, I feel like it would be silly for me to sit here and even complain about what we experienced here compared to what you guys got, because I was sitting down. I think. Are you guys familiar with what's her face? Her YouTube streaming channel.
I love
No.
I love. I didn't know you watch her. Yeah, she's had a baby, right?
Yeah, she just had a baby. She's fantastic.
It's like the coolest. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she did this really great video about like why she was wearing her mask religiously, and it was completely facetious and sarcastic, but still like, informative about what was going on up there. And then I started looking more and more, and I saw what your government was planning to do to you guys, and I was like, I was looking around at the people around me and trying to tell them about it, thinking like, this is the sort of thing that the United States used to like actually help out with. Like we used to actually, I grew up in a sort of a mindset that we were the country that came in and stopped that kind of nonsense from happening to people, right? Like, so
The
I saw
cavalry coming.
Right, and I saw nobody reacting to it like that. In fact, I saw anybody that I talked to quickly turn against the idea that we ought to be even trying to do anything about it. More kind of looking at me like I ought not be saying anything like that. After a while, it was sort of the thing you couldn't go out and say without getting actual active anger directed your way. But again, not gonna minimize your guys' hardship up there, because it was way worse than here.
And I think something that I
respect you guys a lot for what you're
the
doing.
whole time was going on, and something I kept saying was that it sucks that for Canada, but I think it had to be Canada. I don't think any other country could have started the world on the movement that it's on. If it was Australia, it's pretty small. If it's New Zealand, once again, it's not like it doesn't compare. But if it can happen in Canada, that's it. You're not safe. You're not safe in the U.S. You're not safe in the UK.
Exactly.
It can happen.
Exactly. Also, another reason is, you see, the United States is a corporation to the Crown Corporation, and Canada is a subsidiary to that corporation. So we're your left arm or right arm or whatever you want to call us. And you cut that arm off, they can get to the States very easily.
And that's a whole nother video and everything.
That is a can of worms to get into, but I gotta say, for me, it didn't matter. Like what was happening was just.
But I think for so long, Canada has been able to, which is not a really great way to put it, but they weren't. The spotlight was never put on them for anything. You were the polite country. You're America's hat. You were, you were never in the spotlight when it came to these kind of things. And now I think there's so many things in your government that are absolutely disgusting. And I completely own my government, and people get pissed off because I will say, hey, you did this and I did this. They're like, no, I'm against that. Yeah, but it's our country that did it. We did it. Take ownership. And that makes people angry, but people need to start doing that. So I don't like talking about other countries' politics, especially if like Europeans start telling me about gun laws or something. It's like, dude, you're not here. Shut up. But when it comes to certain things, like the treatment of individuals, I think those are very basic. And I don't know if a lot of people know this. I've talked about it. Your VA system is horrific and disgusting. It's worse than ours, and ours is pretty bad. You have legalized suicide there. And I don't know if I'm sure you know this, but people are calling, your veterans are calling for assistance for like mental health issues, and they're being offered suicide instead of something else. Oh, it'll take us like 2 years or a year to do this. A person called to try to get a ramp built at their house for their wheelchair.
To do it here,
and they said they've been calling for 5 years. They said it'll take us another 2 years to build the ramp, but we can get you in for suicide in 90 days.
It's called MAID.
Yeah, MAID. I thought it was a joke. I thought that MAID was a joke. when the person told me about it, I was like, you're making a joke. It's an acronym. It's funny. It's a real thing.
Is that really? Is it an acronym? Did they make it?
Yeah, they made
that is just beyond crass. That's disgusting.
It is that disgusting. I'm literally disgusted.
And how
by
they have it to children, how they write it to children, the wording, it's horrible. What it means to take your life, and they write it so a child can read and understand. It's disgusting.
And these aren't like regular people, though. These are people at their most vulnerable psychologically. These are people who have PTSD and are coming for help.
Well, can I tell you a story that, please, Norman, tell them the story of the woman you met recently on Parliament Hill and how she was about to take her life away.
This is only about 5 days ago, and I had a friend from Alberta show up, and I was showing her around Ottawa, and we were walking along this Rideau Canal, the longest skating rink in the world, and I had this compulsion I said, let's go to Parliament Hill. Right, that's where the convoy was, right? So I said, let's go there, and we got an Uber and went up to Parliament Hill, and the snow is stacked like 4 or 5 feet high on Parliament Hill, the snowbanks. And I went up there, and there was a woman sitting on a snowbank being hassled by a cop, and she was crying. And I pointed at the cop, and I said, go away, leave us alone. And he left. And then I looked at her and I said, you look like you need a hug. You want a hug? And she said, yes. And she came down off the snowbank, and I gave her a hug. And her husband was there. And her right arm was not right, like it was kind of curled up. And she had a severe limp in her left leg. And a little tiny thing. Anyway, she was crying, and I was trying to distract her. And I said, would you like to go for a tour? I'll give you a tour of Parliament Hill. And okay, so I took her and the other person I was with, and I showed them around Parliament Hill. And anyways, just trying to cheer her up, distract her. And I said, where are you guys from? And they said, Nova Scotia, which is the east coast of Canada. And I said, okay, do you want to go for lunch? You want to go where the cool kids hang out? And she said, sure. So we went to the Byward Market. We went to a little cafe there that I frequent. That's where all the truckers went during the convoy. It's like it's a historic hotspot now. So we went there for lunch, and I was telling her stories, and I was telling her, different things that I'd done. And we talked for over an hour. And anyways, it was time to go, and she was going to get in the Uber with her husband. And she said, you've changed my life, Norman. And she gave me a hug. And, okay, thank you very much. And then I get this text. I'm going to read you the text. It's she sent this to me later. And she said, thank you, Norman. You're the reason why I called my doctor and told him to tear up my referral for medical assistance in dying and the DNR. I've got work to do now, and you think I'm worth it. Back home, people look at me funny because of my independence and the way I can hide my arm and leg. And. They're all mean, but you brought me hope. I'm coming back for the Tulip Festival to see what kind of mischief we can get into. And then she sent me a picture of her beautiful face. Now, she had come out from Nova Scotia with her husband. She was going to protest. She was on a snowbank with the cops hassling her. And then the plan was she was going to go back to Nova Scotia and end her life. And now I've convinced her, don't complain, cause trouble. Right?
Right. Yeah, right.
Incredible story, and you made it So you showed Norman how it is a horrible, horrible methodology that they're giving people, where she was going to use them, but yet you
also how little it
changed her life.
How little it takes to steer someone away from it.
The thing that jumps out to me is the insidiousness of the social distancing requirements in this context, right? Like, imagine if that cop had been a little bit more of a jerk about it. You could have had a situation where, one or all of you get hauled off to the local Huskow, right? And you're sitting there, not having the afternoon you had, not being allowed to touch, probably having masks forcibly strapped to your face. That hug probably saved your life.
And I think that's that's the conspiracy theory of why the social distancing was put in place.
I don't think there's a conspiracy theory about it at all.
The thing is that the cops on Parliament Hill know me from the convoy and everything else, so they know who I am, and that's why I could point at the cop and say, "Go away, leave us alone," and he left.
Yep.
And
Norman, I'm gonna be honest with you. When you said that, I got a very weird feeling, a very creepy feeling. It creeped me out massively when you were telling the story. That part of it, the way you said it, it just made me feel like a religious context of speaking like truth to power, to like commanding a demon away from someone. The way you said it, with the authority, how you pointed and you commanded, and it just seemed very creepy. Like that, like I got that vibe. Of
you know what? It's not It's not creepy. I think it's the opposite. It is truth to power.
But it seemed like you were commanding evil to leave the situation.
I did.
Are you guys familiar with the concept of preference?
Not say police are evil.
Preference cascades. It's a weird psychological concept where, like, you're walking around the world thinking you have, because of whatever reason, sort of this loner opinion that's isolated, and that you're by yourself, and that nobody else feels what you feel, right? And then you find out, like, oh, my neighbor feels the same way, because you overhear them on their cell phone one day walking by, and you don't even talk to them about it, but there's this one other person who gives you a little bit more courage. That's why I think Sean, I felt when I was listening to that story, is because I heard about that concept after I experienced it, after I met enough people that I didn't feel like so much of an outcast when I actively refused to take a mask with me anywhere, so that I could refuse to have one, or all the little things that we all had to do to give people enough courage to get to where we are now. We're not there yet, but
can I give you another quick story about Parliament Hill? I and a couple of other people were the reception committee for the convoy, and I got a call saying there's going to be 2 trucks show up. This is before the convoy showed up. There was no one there. They were like in Manitoba or something, and I was told there are going to be 2 trucks show up. One is going to have a camp kitchen and a bunch of food, and the other one's going to have a bunch of tents, like big tents. And so I showed up there with about 10 volunteers, and sure enough, the truck showed up, and we started unloading on the Parliament Hill. And the cops show up, the Parliamentary Protective Service, who carry guns. And they said, you haven't got a permit for this. I said, I don't need a permit. Things have changed. And we started unloading onto Parliament Hill, which is illegal. And they said, well, we'll just load everything back into the truck for you. And I said, everybody sit on the tents. So everyone sat on the stuff we'd unloaded, and they knew they couldn't touch us because we haven't committed a crime, and that would be assault.
Right.
And so we sat there. They didn't know what to do. There's like a dozen cops there. So then they show up.
They don't give those guys much optics training, so they're probably all rightfully scared about what they do next.
Yes. So then the big boss shows up, and she's got like 4 crowns on her shoulder, or maple leafs or whatever. She's the big boss, and she's got a binder, and she's showing me all the infractions that I'm doing. I said,
Wow.
I don't care. That doesn't mean anything. And then once again, I pointed at her. I said, you're not in charge. I'm in charge. And she said, okay. Like that. Okay. It was the freakiest thing that these people wear uniforms and have guns, but if you confront them peacefully,
Yeah.
they've got no option.
Well, I mean, and these people,
Yeah.
probably half of them don't even want to do what they're being asked to do by their bosses.
No,
Like,
exactly. They work for us, and we
Just
let
to let
them
everyone know
that
and the
they're
viewers
working for
know,
us, right?
I'm going to break this interview up into 2 parts. I didn't know that y'all were that Amina and Norman were part of this. I was going to talk about the other thing, so we're going to do just the stuff on the Canada stuff, because it's very interesting, and we all have a lot of opinions, and your stories are amazing and insightful on it. So we're going to do. I'm going to break it
I
into
know.
2 parts.
I make a confession. I know both of your faces from watching things unfold down there.
Okay. Wow.
I've
Thanks.
heard your voices before. You know, I mean, and you know, I'm not like fanning out on you too much. Like, I'm definitely fanning out on you because I love people who stand up and give people who are not quite courageous enough to speak yet a voice. But you know, the whole world had so much going on in it that people were not paying attention to. That I made a point of trying to listen to you guys, and you guys were some of my favorite people.
Speaking of that, of what Greg brought up, of not seeing things in the spotlight, like I was talking about earlier, Canada had not been in the spotlight for stuff, and this really shone the spotlight on it. And Norman, you said that the police were hassling this woman, and the craziest thing to me, the most mind-blowing thing, is that the term hassling, how much it changed with this incident, with what happened in Canada, because the police weren't hassling people the way they were before. People were taking a break from being out there holding a sign, doing whatever, in a coffee shop, and they were police out front with cameras and cell phones, just snapping pictures and using facial recognition, and then freezing these people's bank accounts. They were hassling these people in a way that had never been done before. There's no need to be an interaction. They can hassle you and take away everything completely from a few steps away. That was crazy to me. Then how GoFundMe and everyone, the control, and just the not just the control, but the blatant illegal and hubris of it. Like, hey, we got your money, and we're not going to do with it what you wanted. We're just not. What are you going to do? You know, you gave $100, you gave $50, you gave $200. That was supposed to go to this group, and we're not going to give it to him, but we might not give it back to you either. We'll decide who it goes to. It showed the power and need for decentralization, but it showed the corruption of the system in general, and then how corrupt and how bad it had gotten. And also things that I've seen. I've seen Canadians just a heroic, just regular people. I believe like some of Trudeau's personal security force resigned because of the unconstitutional stuff.
You know, Sean, there were good cops. There were a lot of good cops, and Norman and I got to meet a lot of different ones, and Parliament security, and a lot of them were good with us and were on our side. And
I've seen a lot of videos of military, Canadian military people who don't have YouTube channels. They just make a video and they're like, hey, I've been in the Canadian military for 12 years or whatever. I'm resigning. I'm not going to be a part of this government. To me, that was like, oh, absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also, you know, they brought in other forces and other police officers from York in Toronto, which is a whole other area, and an unmarked, you know, security. And so there was a lot of stuff going on that
did you guys expect
definitely
The emergency order.
not kosher. And
Pardon me?
I think we encountered a lot of police who were really good with us many, many times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I understand it, the
We
law
weren't
that
sure.
Trudeau
I
activated
didn't
had
put it
never
past
been activated before.
Trudeau to put that out there. We knew that was going to come. We knew
Right.
there's no rules, there's no laws in the land right now, so we
Right.
knew they would do it. I mean,
Well, yeah,
I
and
knew anyway.
I read somewhere too that like the predecessor rule to this that
That's right.
that was
That's right. Which allows
replaced by
military to
this
come in
rule
when
was
you
his own dad's
do that. So,
his own dad's creation.
yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh.
So what are you going on right now as far as Justice for Canada? What is happening with you guys now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's Ottawa is definitely the epicenter.
Are you hearing me?
So Norman went to the courts recently again, and he was going to charge for the agency in wrongfully and more acts of crimes against humanity. Can you hear me?
You have about
a
you have about a 3 or 4 second delay on
hello.
from what
Yeah,
everyone
we're
else is saying to you.
getting latency. Are you hearing us?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but I think you're hearing us about 3 to 5 seconds later
No?
than what we are.
I can hear you. I hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Amina gets straightened out. There's
I'm
a
hearing
few,
you.
We may be experiencing exactly what happens when
that's okay.
Oh my.
We had an inquiry in January into the whole convoy and the Emergency Act and the way it was handled. And in Ottawa, and I went to that inquiry every day, and I went there with paperwork. There's a video that you can see of me at RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police Headquarters, and I've got a document charging Trudeau with treason. And when the RCMP found out about it, they ran away from me. Like they put their hands in the air and they're backing up. They got guns on their hips and they're backing away from me with this document because they don't want anything to do with it. So I served them with it.
Do the RCMPs have badge numbers too? Like, were you able to tell?
Yeah, they do. They do.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's priceless because I'm there with this little old lady and a little tiny dog, and I've got this document, and it's like kryptonite to them. They're backing away with their hands in the air, and I did serve them. Anyways, I went to the inquiry that they had about the convoy and the Emergency Act, and I went through the metal detector, and two big guys in suits with the ID around their neck came and they said, Norman, can we have a couple of minutes? And I said, okay, sure. And we went off into a corner and I said, how do you know who I am? They said, you're famous. We've seen all your videos. We know what you're about. And these are cops, right?
That's
and
so funny.
And
They're
they're smiling, and my name's Mike, and this is Jason. And I said, okay. They said, we've seen you come here every day, but this is the first day you've come with paperwork. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, do you plan on serving those papers on anyone here today? And I said, yes, I do. I plan on serving Brenda Lucky, who is the commissioner of the RCMP. And the guy smiles at me and he says, well, we're going to have to try and prevent that. And I said, okay. He says, if you try and do that, we're going to detain you and then you won't be allowed back again. And I said, all right, I get the rules. And he smiles and he says, "But we have no control over what you might do outside on the sidewalk if you have." I said, "All right, thank you." Anyhow,
Awesome.
I didn't get to serve her, but I came back when Trudeau was there.
Mm-hmm.
And went through the metal detector, and there's a big lineup to get into the room where Trudeau is.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys come up to me again, and they fist bump me. "Good to see you. You know, I'm glad you're back." And then they said, "You don't have to line up." And they just walked me in there.
Awesome.
And they sat me down so that like about 15 feet from Trudeau so he could see me, and stood by my chair.
That's
But
fantastic. What were their names? You gotta give
Mike
them a
and
shout
Jason.
out. Mike and Jason, you guys are awesome. If you're ever in Kansas, you need a place to crash, you got one.
There you go. Hi, Amina.
Hi, I'm back. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
you're
I'm
not
having...
latent anymore. You
Yeah,
were
that's
so
right.
latent before.
Oh, okay, I'm having bad reception. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Well, glad to have you back. Well, I'll leave links below to you can send me over where they can find more information out on Justice for Canada and support you guys and learning more. Do you have a YouTube channel, Norman?
No, Amina does. It's Amina M on YouTube. AMINA, and then a space and then a capital M on
Yeah,
YouTube.
I'll put links to hers down in the description. But where can they get some of these videos that you were talking about?
They're all on my channel.
Okay, super cool. Okay, anything else y'all want to go over for Justice for Canada or anything before we jump into the second interview, which will go up separately?
I could probably, and if we get the Sean, did you see my proposal on the Den LCP process this time around?
No.
For the new show, I'm gonna break out the crypto Joe Rogan. We're gonna do like a long form open-ended interview. I would love to have one of you guys or both of you guys come on there, and we can just talk at length. Because I have like a billion more questions that I could ask you guys about how this goes and how things are going.
Hey, Greg,
things going. So
Sure.
Can you give Greg my email?
Yeah, no worries.
Cool. I think like I said in the beginning, one of the most powerful things about both these things that you're part of is just showing people that they do have not just a voice but power.
Mm-hmm.
Power is derived from the mass. We know all these sayings and they've become cliche, but with that, I think they've lost a lot of the power and the authority.
Sean, we have so much power, and when we went to Montreal, we spoke to 300,000 people, and looking in their faces and their eyes, it was incredibly. It was sad, really, because they had just talked about putting out the vaccine passport, mandatory passport, and people were panicking. And it didn't matter if you were vaxxed or not vaxxed; they were all there, and it was just they are looking at you. I mean, many people spoke. We spoke, and when I got a chance to speak to them, I looked in their eyes and I thought to myself, you're looking to me and I can't help you. I said, I'm not here to help you. You have to help yourself. And that was always my message to people.
I just had kind of an epiphany here. Because you were talking about not wearing your mask or what's her face wearing your mask for certain reasons. I wore a mask with a big middle finger on it, which was rough when you go to like my grandkids shows.
I bought one of those ones that's made of like a layer of mesh. And I went for the nude option so that people could still see my face.
I had one that
right.
Most of the time nobody did anything about it, but a few times.
And it'll put whatever message, or it has certain things you can put across it.
Okay, I got a quick story.
What I just said is how people have been beaten down to where they think they have no power at all.
Yeah.
And it shocked me.
Yeah.
Because I would take an oxygen tank with me
and
go somewhere and be like, oh, I can't wear a mask. I have breathing problems. I have to wear oxygen. And they'd be like, and there's like, no, man, you got to wear a mask, bro.
Oh, yeah, they don't care. They don't care.
First off, I'm intimidating. I'm with my kids who are horribly intimidating.
Oh, it's horrible.
I've never had anyone in my life, and I'm a very nice guy. I've always had to kind of like play it down and be like super, I'm the big teddy bear kind of guy,
Mhm.
because people
Yeah.
get nervous and get scared. You know, I'm 6'1",
Yeah.
and like 300 pounds. I make people nervous.
Mhm.
And I've never had anyone be like this with me. Like, no, dude, you can't come by. Put on the mask. You could take it
Oh,
off when you
yeah.
walk through the
Yeah.
door. I'm like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
You know, but I think because people have been beaten down so much and feel like they have no power, this was these entities saying, here's some power for you.
That's
You
right.
can be the knights
Yeah.
of our republic.
100%.
Push,
I
But
think
completely
our
dumbed,
narrative. We're behind you. You
completely,
have power.
yeah,
They
and
grabbed
completely
it.
dumbed down, right? Like,
They grabbed that power,
yeah,
that authority,
Oh yeah.
which they already had,
yeah.
but they had given it up. But I
Right.
think
Like, I feel like there's some
what's
people out there
I
whose
used it
lives.
twice on Parliament Hill.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you just have to get where you need to, but and that there's no certainly no shame in it, right? Like
No, it's just that it
it's
doesn't
a
work. They don't work.
well,
That's
it
all.
doesn't work, but
Yeah.
the thing that drives me nuts about it is, and and I love this argument against it because I think it's probably the most compelling, and it's also probably the reason that they imposed the mandates to begin with everywhere. I feel like it's compelled speech, right? You put these things on, and you get a sea of those things going. It completes the terrifying visual environment that they're trying to create with the psychological warfare techniques they're using.
Mhm.
Right? They need you to be a messenger of fear. And that's what they do. They make it visual. They make it very obvious, and they make it really uncomfortable to breathe for people. Like I have asthma, and I would carry an inhaler around, and that would, when anyone challenged me about my, very what I consider my very breathable compliance device that I would keep in my back pocket if I couldn't talk my way out of having to put it on. If anybody gave me trouble with that, I'd pull my inhaler out, show it to them. Didn't matter. They didn't care. But the people around you that also thought it was asinine, watching that happen, they got a little bit more courage from it, right? Like the people that resist early are the ones who start the waves.
Also, we talk about like the psychological part of it and like the distancing and all. I live that. I've been in the hospital a few times. I died and was in a coma for a long time. So I've been in the hospital. And when you're in the hospital, you have a nurse. You have like 3 nurses and a doctor that are on different shifts. They come in, this little whiteboard in your room. They're like, "Oh, I'm Sally, and this is Margaret," and blah blah. They come in to talk to you. "Oh, we're kids, going to graduate." Blah blah blah. They come in, 2 days later. How's your kid? Did you guys graduation? I was in the hospital for food poisoning right at the beginning, and masks never came off. Masks were on everybody, as well as like little hats. So they were nothing to me. I can't tell you who those people were. Every time they came in my room, they would talk. They'd tell me, "Oh, my son's going to graduate." Blah blah. That's great. As soon as they left, I don't know who they are. I know that's Sally. But when she comes in, she goes, "Oh, it's me." I don't recognize her 2 days later. It's just a maskless automaton here to take my vitals or give me something, some medicine. There was no connection whatsoever to any of the people there. No matter how warm they were, no matter how nice they were, I couldn't connect. It's not that I didn't care. I couldn't connect to them. And that was real. That was real for me.
Sean, you raise a really good point, man. Have you ever played Cyberpunk 2077? Any of you guys are video gamers?
I've watched it.
Okay. There are little descriptions that these developers or professional writers wrote that next to any piece of equipment you pick up, and you can pick up jackets or whatever else and deck out your futuristic mercenary and all this stuff, and you can pick up these mask things that go over people's faces that sort of like the sort of post-apocalyptic desert people will drop off or whatever, and you read the description, you hover over it, and this game was written before everything, right? Delightfully dehumanizing was the description that they gave it, right? Like it's dehumanizing. Faces are a big part of who we are. I just the thing that drives me nuts about it most, though, is like kids who grew up with it because they thought that was normal. They never knew like 2020 if they sort of came to consciousness in that time period.
And we don't know how they're changed by that.
Yeah.
We've never had a generation where for years this small group of people didn't have some kind of visual connection.
Well, I think humans are more resilient than we give them credit for. So I'm guessing that if anything, it's going to galvanize us to give them better post years. I hope that's what it does. Anyway, but so so let's jump into some questions though. I think about because I could talk about this for hours. But
well, I think we can wrap up the Justice for Canada. Anything else we want to go over on that?
Just that there's a lot. I think there's a lot more to be said because there's so much that went on. And for people listening right now, watching this, like if you haven't looked into this, please go look into this. Anybody on this stream can send you sources and show you what's going on, tell you what's going on. Most people who experienced it, I'm sure, are happy to talk about it. Anybody who has also seen it from a distance is probably happy to talk about it. This is like, I mean, if you watch what was going on in Australia, if you watch what was going on in Germany, if you watch what was going on in some of the worst parts of the UK, there were places in what we thought were Western free states that were, especially bad, especially uniquely bad. Things happened there that you wouldn't think could happen in a free place.
We don't
Especially
need to get in how things are all connected. But
like,
part of the I don't want to say propaganda, the actual manuals that Russian officers had in Ukraine in the beginning when they were, when the fighting first started, it was a lot of this was we are the last bastion of freedom for humankind. Look at what they have done. Look at what the West has done, because you were talking about the West, these Western.
Right.
That was in there. That's literally what was driving part of the conflicts that we're in. Is that's coming for us? We have to stop it. It's at our door.
And that's why I say
it is all connected. It is all connected. There's a lot more to be talked about.
And that's why I would say to the audience, like, please learn about this. Please reach out. And it's not just because your fellow humans need connections to help heal from all that stuff, but like you actually probably are going to have to deal with this stuff in some form or another sooner than later. So it will behoove you to know what the tactics look like. And
I think we definitely watched history happen, and we're going to be seeing this. 20 years down the road, this will be taught in schools around the world of this point in history and what happened. Hopefully, 20 years.
Hopefully,
not.
Hopefully, it's taught. Otherwise, we
if
didn't
the bad
succeed.
People win, it'll be taught still, but probably not for like 100 years from now. So that's about it for this part of the interview. You guys make sure to crush the like button. Make sure to leave a comment so you're registered to win some crypto on the crypto meme review giveaway. And we'll move on to the next part of the interview.